Right, so going to be fitting a Datatool digital gear indicator, which most of you have seen on bikes. It's just a great big box with an old school Casio digital number indicator. It's quite a big bulky unit to get on the front of the dash of the bike somewhere. We'll see how it goes. Not hard to fit. There are 6 wires coming out the back. One of them is just a wire for programming, the orange one, so you don't need that one. And the other 5 are soldered into the wiring loom. They must be soldered. You can't get away with anything temporary or remotely iffy. And the orange one at the end is used to program, like I said, and then it's taped away in case it needs to be redone in the future. So that is the task. The end come tinned in the box, which is handy. Haven't got to tin the ends, but when you do splice into the main wiring loom, you'll have to tin the wire before you solder these on. All pretty simple though. The tricky bit is getting the right wires from the wiring diagram, but it's not hard, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, just looking at the bike and just planning on where to put this great big block. It would be handy to get it underneath there, because that's just a spare gauge blank with the Suzuki logo on it, and it's virtually the same size. It could be handy to get it behind there. That'd be neat, just if I could work out how to fix it. Alternatively, on the yoke here, it could go on there, because it comes with sticky mounting pads that can go on the back, and I've just recently mounted this on the sticky pad, because that's when I put on the heated grips, and that's the heated grip controller. I didn't do a how-to on that because obviously it is so simple. Monkey see, monkey do. So it's so simple. Even Nick Clegg could have done it. So I didn't bother with that one. But I shall do a little how-to on this one because it's a bit more involved. I need to get all the front off and the dash out to get to the wiring loom behind the clocks. Because I need the cables for pulse sensors for both speedo and the RPM, along with everything normal stuff like the earth and the switch live. So first thing to do is get the front off and see what we find. Okay, so I've got the actual whole dash panel out, which wasn't much of a problem. Just loosen the side panels so they move sideways a little bit. This has got 2 fixings, one on each bottom corner there, and the top has 2 fixings up here, which are hidden behind the top of the panel, across the bridge there. And obviously the back of the unit, all the cables are on one large push fit connector block like that. So that should be, I want to get in there. So take this back panel out, this is solid, and it goes in from the front. So that should work. And then splice into these cables here. So now we come to what is the magic of Haynes. So this is the model 600F WF to X Europe, which is, mine's the X 1999 code X, and on the wiring diagram up in this corner, if I get a pointy stick, up in this corner, all of this here is a connector block, and this unit at the top here, all this is the dashboard. Obviously dash lights there, and the gauges that are affected there. So here we have, on the line there, 12 coloured cables going into the connector block, which are these 12 cables here in the connector block. So it's a direct takeoff really, so it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so I undid those 3 bolts, and this is what we got. It's a whole solid unit now, just plastic, but it's a backing piece, and all those little black rubber covers that you can see there are just hiding the light bulbs, dash bulbs. So that's how you get to the dash bulbs, to change those. And I'm looking at getting down into this corner behind there, maybe. So rather than just give up now, after I strip this lot down, I may as well just undo those screws, have a look in the back and see if it's possible, if it's worth it, in for a penny. Okay, so I've undone all our screws, and when I lift it off, you get that, and that's bottom corner is where that front faceplate is. So at this point I say no, I'm going to leave that and go for plan B. Okay, so we got the unit on the bike, that's going to go on the pad on there, and the cable will go underneath into this here. So with these cables, 5 are being used for the actual unit, and 6th one, the orange one, is just a programming wire. When you program it all up, you touch this to earth, sort of, you know, somewhere to earth, as you tell it and program it for the amount of gears you got, and for when it sequences its own calibration. Now the best thing to do is, with this orange wire, is try and get it back so it's a lot longer, and then when you're all back with your panels back on, you've then got it to hand to use, rather than having this underneath, which is a pain in the butt. So I'm going to strip that back a little bit. Obviously this here is the boot that covers this connector, so that will have to go inside there before you solder them on. And what I've done here is separate the 5 wires that I need to solder onto. So those 5 will be soldered in there, all taped up, covered with the boot, and then the boot base retaped again. Bob's your uncle. So that's the first thing. Get the orange cable back. Okay, so I've separated this orange cable. I just spliced into the cable sheath there, the black one, and pulled the red one through, and then recovered in black tape, because that's just touched to earth as a programming system. And now the cable, this end is through the gator, and I separated the cables here that I want, these wires, and I've just put a bit of card in there to stop any solder dropping down onto the other cables, other wires, because obviously being so small they don't need any other aggravation. So I shall just strip back some cable sheath on here and solder those in. So I've separated the black earth and the red switch live because I'm going to connect those last. That's just force of habit. And I'm just going to take off some copper to expose the wires. Doing it this way just ensures there's no break in the original wiring loom cables. To be honest, I prefer to have heat shrink, make a break, and heat shrink it all together at the end. But this is a fail safe. If the cables that I'm connecting for some reason do fail, break or come apart in the future, the original cables are still intact and the bike still functions as planned. If I were to cut the cable, join and make a fresh break that way, in the future I could lose everything if something were to go wrong. Check the heat of the iron. I'm just going to tin a little bit on here. Join the two together by the use of the fact that they're both tinned. They join with a touch. You don't want to use too much solder, and nor do you want to blow it dry. It dries quickly, cools down quickly, but you don't want to blow it so it cools unevenly. There we are, carry on, do the rest of those. Okay, so I've put the 4 on, the 3 signal cables and the earth there, and I've just got the live to connect into this one here. But before I do that, I just want to make sure that that is A switched live, as I've worked out on the wiring diagram, but just going to double check. Just going to double check. There's the key, there we go. So, key's off at the moment, and we're dead. That's me. .4 dead. Can I do it and switch it on? Excellent, that's the one. That's the goodie. Connect that one onto there, onto here. There we go. Okay, so that's those 5 soldered onto there. I've just got to individually wrap them all in tape and then tape it up. But obviously that being a switch live in the earth should make this come on with the key. Happy days. Happy days. Excellent. So tape it up, put it back together. Job's a good one. Okay, so I'm back together and I'm on the centre stand, so the rear wheel is off the ground, because in order to program the RPMs for each gear you need to do it live and running. So on the centre stand, if you don't have a centre stand you've got to do it out on the road, so choose a quiet road for that one. The first thing you do is to tell the unit how many gears you have, and with the orange control wire you would touch it to an earth point. I'm going to use the headstock bolts, and at first this will flash with the letter P for program, then you let go and you touch the earth and this will count up 1, 2, 3, 4 for how many gears you have. So I've got 6 gears, I'm heading for 6, and don't forget when you're key on you want to be in the run position, of course, on here. So I need touch to earth until we get a P. This could take up to 60 seconds, it says. P. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go, that set it for 6 gears. Now I need to isolate this so it doesn't touch. So what you need to do is put it into gear, and it will change to first gear from obviously neutral. You take the revs up to 2000 revs, and where it will flash up the number 1, it will flash very quickly and then change into the middle side bar across the middle of the display, and that's when you're synced. Then you change and do each gear like that. So that's the plan. So we're going to go for it. That took a long time to sync. Okay, so that's all synced up. 5 and 6 took a long time to sync, but got there eventually. So now I've just got to tie this orange cable that I don't need. I'll sort of coil it up and tape it in black tape to hide it, and then go for a road test and see how we're getting on, see if it's working.